Hi everybody, I was gonna go live, but you know, as some of you know, I am recording on a very basic Samsung Galaxy Tab from several years ago, and I have no idea what went wrong, but it refused to connect. So, these are a bunch of rosaries, which I've acquired a while back. They were stuck in customs for a bit. Finally was delivered yesterday. I purchased this from a collector in the US who is liquidating her collection in a way that I will in about a decade's time. Whoops, sorry, I'm off camera. I've just switched this device around, and so the camera is now here rather than over here, so it's over here now. Background music is from Cafe Music BGM here on YouTube. Any advertising that you see on here will be done on their behalf. They will be making the advertising money. I will put a link down below. So this is the first one. My understanding is that these are all antiques, all vintage or old. Sometimes it's difficult to establish whether something is truly antique, because sometimes you get an antique piece that has never been used, has been stored very well, and so they look brand spanking new. So signs of wear aren't enough to establish whether something's truly old. There are a few telltale signs that we may have to research. So this feels really new, but we'll see. I think this is probably mid-century. At least the design is mid-century. Or let me have a look. I remember now why I was attracted to this. I was attracted to this because, let me just move this way, because of the centerpiece that's very geometric. That one there. I think this was, I can't remember the description. I have to go through my notes. What I will do is I'll do another video where I will go through my rosary collection, and I'll have my notes then. So this design, I find it quite interesting because it feels very mid-century. It feels very 1950s, although some might potentially mistaken this because it's so geometric and angular. Some might be persuaded to say that this is Art Deco. I could be wrong. It may be Art Deco, but just yeah. I think this is mid-century. I think this is very much like 1940s. Very late deco at the very least. So that's one. I will grab my notes in my next video when I go through some of my rosary collection. Next. I'm not very good with unboxing or unwrapping or doing this sort of thing, so I know that some of you have lost a bit of patience watching me unwrap things, and well, it's just how it is, isn't it? With some people, myself included. This also feels rather new. It's 925 sterling silver. The label is still attached. That's very much Mother Mary's. The back there is her insignia, whatever you call it. I tend not to prefer this kind of centerpieces. It's very much what I grew up with. I prefer something a bit more neutral, something a bit more interesting, like this one here is St. Francis of Assisi. I'm a great admirer of his. He, I think, grew up in a very wealthy family. He was quite naughty. Well, when I say naughty, he was quite rebellious. And he's known as a saint who speaks to the animal, who spoke to animals. And so I love that about him. And of course, the order of the Franciscans, I think, was in honor of him, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember why I picked this. Some of these will be available for sale on my antique shop, Blue Ginger Vintage. Feel free to email me. I'll put an email down below. So that's that. I will, once again, I will have a separate video going through my rosary collection with a note explaining and sharing with you all as part of my inventory as well, part of my video inventory about what each of the rosaries are made of, which period they're from, etc, etc. For now, I'm just gonna unwrap these. I believe this is one of the older pieces. This is something I've recently been introduced to. I think this is the rosary for Our Lady of Seven Sorrows, or Our Lady of Sorrows. There's Mother Mary there with 7 swords stabbed into her heart. And I've been highly recommended using this, or this kind of rosary, or you call them chaplet? There's a name for it, which I can't remember, but I will put that down below. And I was recommended to use this as part of grief work. And if you think about Mother Mary and the kind of heartbreak and sorrow that she had to face, 7 of them contemplated within this particular strand, such as this one here. You can imagine you can imagine how it would feel to work with stories such as those, to work through your own grief. So let's open this one up. I honestly can't remember half the time why I picked these, and I think some of them may look quite different. You know how sometimes they look quite different on photos. This is another interesting design here, which I find quite interesting and very unique. It's very, especially around the cross there. I still prefer with crosses, do you call them crucifixes or crosses, without the corpus, without the body, but it's unavoidable in rosaries such as these. So I love the sort of angular combined with those more floral. I think this is crystal. It's quite hefty, it's quite heavy. So again, some of these will be available in my shop, and I will put my email down below. I have yet to price them. So this one, it says Italy. Whoops, I'm sorry again. It says sterling. So that's sterling silver, which is quite, my understanding is quite rare these days, because these days most of these would have been made of stainless steel instead of silver. That's probably why I picked it. And I think this must be amethyst. Again, I will go through this in greater details in a separate video, just to manage the length of this one. Just grab a cup of coffee. Good grief, coffee's gone so cold so quick. Let me just preheat a minute. Oh, I'm back. Oh, I cut through the second layer, never mind. Okay, this is one I've picked because of the unusual cubical stones. This is for my personal collection. So I found this interesting because the cross or the crucifix look very Victorian, very much more ornate than this is very Art Deco, very angular, and you're looking at the cubes here. Seems very Art Deco to me, but that's very Art Nouveau. So it's an interesting combination potentially, because perhaps some of these crucifixes were designed maybe a couple of decades before, and it was still in use, and you know, they were put together like pieces of jewelry. Sometimes you find the stones are a lot older often than the jewelry itself. So for example, if you have rings or diamond rings from crafted and set in the 1930s, often the diamonds are from the early 1900s or the late 1800s, because they've been cut and stored. And so I'm kind of wondering that these might have been produced earlier in the period. So it says they're sterling, and I quite like this. There's a term for it, but this is the best way to link jewelry. There's a name for it. The Sisters of Carmel, who currently make rosaries to supplement their income, they do this knot for all of the rosaries that you order from them. I know of the Carmelite sisters because my mom talk about them a lot. My mom grew up in a convent, went to convent boarding school in the 50s and 60s, and she often talked about Carmelites, Carmelites, nuns. But they use this, those guys, and you can custom made, so you can pick the beads, you can pick the crucifixes, you can pick the length, you can pick all sorts of things, and they will assemble them, hand assemble them for you. And so this is for my personal collection because it's so interesting. It's just, and I like hefty, large beads in my rosaries, and this is quite interesting with the cubes there. I love it. So that is my personal collection. The other ones are for the store. So this is for my personal collection, and I haven't decided about that yet, but these two are definitely for the store. Sorry, out of focus. So I'm currently revamping my shop. Currently I'm with Trocadero, and they're costing a little too much, several hundred a year. I'm just still in the process of creating a website, but for the moment you can contact me on an email that I will link down below, and yeah, and we can conduct our business there, and I can show you So this is very, the beads here, very much like one I've recently acquired as well that I will show in my next video. This kind of beading I find quite interesting. I believe these are wood. Let me focus for you. I think this is Victor. Oh, it's a bit bent. A bit bent. It says here souvenir mission. Oh, it's a bit bent. Okay, the crucifix is quite small and it seems to be stamped metal rather than constructed like this one here. This seems to be like stamped, and then basically that's the crucifix, and then this body is attached to it. It's very floral. It's very Georgian, very early Victorian. I found this one here very interesting. J and M it says. So I've never seen, I'm sure this is not rare, none of my pieces are extremely rare, but they are interesting, that's for sure. So that's Jesus and Mary, I'm thinking. I think you call them repose. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it, but. And again, you know, I like to see that in my rosaries. But not here, unfortunately. See, usually it's just like that, and that's prone to coming loose. And that is more secure like that. So that's really good to know. This is quite interesting. So again, I will share with you more details in the next video. This is also quite unique, and again with this funny sort of seems to be quite popular in the early 1800s. I believe it's called boxwood. I could be wrong. Again, I will double check and we'll talk you guys through all of them. I love this pouch. It's so nice. I'm not quite sure whether it's original to the rosary, but it doesn't really matter. This tying in between is always good. And this bead seems to be really popular in certain periods. If you imagine people making beads and crosses and centerpieces and crucifixes, and then everything's just assembled, you know, in that decade. This is interesting without the centerpiece, which is kind of, I quite like that. You tend to see older pieces without centerpiece, without the, whatever the technical term is in the middle there. So you see that go like so from the two strands down, like so. And this cross is heavy, and I like that it has this, like the nail actually go through. I quite like that, and modern pieces don't do that anymore because they're too much time to make. See, the cross actually went all the way to the back. It just makes things a bit more, it's a bit too real maybe, but you know, craftsmanship wise I like. So it says something, what does it say? I don't know what it says. We'll look through this in a separate video. For now, it's almost close to 20 minutes, so I am going to leave you to it. Yeah, so that's interesting. Until my next video showing you part of my rosary collection. I'll talk to you then.